What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Quick Bricks NBA DFS podcast, brought to you by the good guys over at Fantasy Degens, of course. Sean Mitchell here, of course, at smitchell17 on Twitter. If you want to find me, converse, talk, DM, whatever, I'm always open to answering any questions, talking about basketball, football, whatever you want to do. It is Friday, the day after Turkey Day. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday. Hopefully everybody's enjoying their extended weekend here. But NBA's back. Today we have 13 games on the slate. So we had 14 the day before, and now we have 13 the day after. It's lovely. Love it. But lots of good games on the slate today. So let's go ahead and jump right in, talk about spreads, totals, a little bit about the pace. So game number 1, we have Celtics at the Nets. Boston minus 3.5 here on the road, 216 total. Boston coming in. These are over the last 5 games that I've been doing the pace. I like to see the change from kind of the beginning of the season until now. So that's why I typically look at the last 5 games, because it kind of shows how they are, of course, here recently. Boston 27th in terms of pace over the last 5. Nets have dropped to 24th, interestingly enough. So that one's pretty weird. The Hornets at the Pistons, you get a rematch here. These two teams just played literally like 2 or 3 days ago. Detroit minus 8.5 here at home, 212 on the total. Charlotte 25th over the last 5 in terms of pace. Detroit 29th. Raptors at the Magic. Toronto minus 3.5 here at home, 206 on the total. Toronto 26th over their last 5. Orlando 20th. Toronto was really eye-opening there and shocking. Bucks at the Cavaliers. Milwaukee minus 10.5 here on the road. 228 on the total. Nice little high total here against Cleveland. Milwaukee is 3rd in pace over the last 5. Cleveland 22nd. 76ers at the Knicks. Looks like the 76ers are going to be without a few people. Looks like Josh Richardson's doubtful. Looks like Al Horford's taking a day off. Who knows who else could be sitting in this game, but there's no total, no spread on that one. And then Philadelphia is ranked dead last in terms of pace over the last 5 games. And New York Knicks are 3rd from last at 28th. So use that as you wish. Hawks at the Pacers. Indiana minus 10.5 here at home. 224 on the total. Nice total. Atlanta 6th in terms of pace over the last 5, and Indiana is 15th. So you get a nice little pace-up spot here for Indiana at home against the Hawks, who don't play a lot of defense. Good game. I like that one. Warriors at the Heat. Miami minus 12.5 here at home. 213 on the total. Butler probably is back. He had an illness, missed last game. I assume he will return. Golden State 19th and over the last 5 in terms of pace, and Miami 16th. So mid-pack there for both of those guys. Pelicans at the Thunder. OKC here, a little small home favorite at 3.5, 228 on the total. Pelicans ranked 5th in terms of pace over their last 5, and then the Thunder are 17th. The Jazz at the Grizz. Utah minus 7.5, 219 on the total. Utah 11th, Memphis 8th. So this is a game you're going to want to look to target. We know Memphis kind of struggles a little bit defensively. They usually play a little bit better at home, but there's a really couple good spots in this game, obviously. So we'll be looking at that one, and it should have decent pace. The total's a little bit lower than we expected, but it's right around 220, which is fine. Clippers at the Spurs. Clippers minus 6.5 here on the road in San Antonio, 225 on the total. Clippers ranked 4th in terms of pace over the last 5. San Antonio hanging around that 14th spot. I'm pretty damn sure the last 4 slates that I've done, San Antonio has been 14th, and they've stuck there. They have not moved, which is good. They're running with decent pace. They're staying consistent. They're getting a team here, like I said, with the Clippers, who run with pretty decent, nice pace. Obviously, they're in the top 10, been in the top 10 now for a couple weeks, so that one's good. They should get Kawhi back. 225 on the total is, I think, 3rd or 4th highest on the board so far. Might have been 5th. Either way, it's a pretty nice game to look at. Mavericks at the Suns. Dallas minus 1.5 here, 232 on the total. Dallas is ranked 10th in terms of pace over the last 5, and Philadelphia ranked 12th. Phoenix. Excuse me. We know Phoenix has been running with a lot of pace all year. They usually typically do. Rubio being back helps that. So this is a good one. Dallas has actually paced up quite a bit lately. That's probably because they played a few games in some spots where they had to pace up, but typically they were running in the 20s range. So that's a good look. Like that one, obviously, big, high, nice total. We know the Suns don't play a lot of great D. Obviously, Luka is going to be in that game, the GOAT. So anyway, Bulls at the Blazers, no total here. Probably waiting to see. Honestly, I don't really know who they're waiting on in this game. There's no total, no spread, but obviously somebody's going to be missing. And honestly, I tried to look, and I didn't see anybody. So that one will be worth monitoring. Chicago 17th, last 5 in terms of pace. They've fallen back a little bit. Looks like those couple games with Milwaukee boosted them up real big, and now they're kind of falling back to their norm. But Portland, of course, hangs around the top 10. They stay fast. Portland is 7th. So this is a nice pace-up spot, of course, for Chicago going into Portland. It should be a good game. Should be a decently high total. I'd probably say mid 220s, 225, 228, somewhere in that range is my guess. Wizards at the Lakers, your late night hammer. Not a great one because the Lakers are 12.5-point home favorites here, but the spread is 234. Wizards, number 1 in terms of pace over the last 5. The Lakers, 21st. So that's a rundown of your games. Talking a little bit, like I said, obviously we'll be wanting to see what's going on with the Bulls and Blazers game. That one's an interesting game for fantasy for sure. So a couple good games that I really like. Like I said, the ones that I'm really looking at right now are the Hawks and the Pacers, the Pelicans and the Thunder, Jazz and the Grizz, Clippers and the Spurs, of course the Mavs and the Suns, and the Bulls and the Blazers. So those are the ones that obviously catch my eye early on. Don't get me wrong, I love an LBJ and AD stack in this game because the Wizards just give up a plethora of points to both the point guard spot and the power forward spot. Nonetheless, it's tough, of course, whenever they're both over 10K and you're playing against the Wizards. So hopefully the Wizards can hang around and play almost all the game with them and not get trashed. But we'll see. Let's jump right into it. Point guard spot, Luka at 11.8, over 70 in the last 3 of his 4, 40.1% usage over his last 5 games. No secret here, the guy's been playing amazing. His price is finally up. He probably should be over 12K. But at 11.8, he's playing, again, against Phoenix here on the road. I'm a fan. Rubio looks to play, but Rubio, I'm sorry, but he's not going to be able to deal with Luka. So anyway, yeah, it's Luka play day again. Like I said, LBJ at 11.2, 33.7% usage in his last 5. Washington allowing the second most fantasy points over the last 5 games to that point guard spot. Has a nice 234 total here. Of course, playing at home, over 53 in his last 3 or 4. So, of course, Washington is not a really good defensive team. They don't, of course, who's going to guard him? They're going to put Rui on him. They're going to put, Brown. I don't know. They really don't have anybody that can guard LeBron. So that's just a mismatch in all of itself. Dame Lillard here, of course, in that game against the Bulls at home. We talked about him on the pod on Wednesday. Talked about how much we liked him returning back home. Here again, and guess what? He put up almost 45 fantasy points in that game. So Dame at home is a totally different story than Dame on the road. Of course, we talked he had missed a couple games, and then he came back and played 2 on the road, and then this game was the game that he returned back home, put up 45. So tonight he gets Chicago at home, who we know is not exactly that great against the point guard spot. Dame doesn't matter because Dame absolutely crushes at home, and has right around a 28% usage over his last 3, 27.8, and we know, Chicago versus those guards. So Dame will be in play here at 8.7. Actually like that price. Malcolm Brogdon at 7.9. We know Atlanta also struggles versus point guards. I'm sorry, but Trae Young is not going to be able to guard Malcolm Brogdon. 35 and 39 in his last 2, right over 24% usage at 24.1 over his last 5 leads the team in that regard. So Malcolm Brogdon, his price went back up. Nonetheless, it's a great spot, pace-up spot here against Atlanta. I'm enjoying it. I like it. Drew Holiday at 7.8. Obviously put up 60.5 last game. Had a really nice game. OKC is 10th, the 10th most fantasy points to the point guard spot over the last 5. He's going to continue to play point with Lonzo, still in that minutes restriction. Don't really know what's going on. Still hasn't played over 25 minutes. So that one will be interesting to note. And, of course, Drew's just been playing really well. Over 47 in his last 3 or 4. So Drew Holiday's been balling out. Of course, gets a good spot here against the Thunder. This is a nice pace-up spot for OKC, so don't mind Drew. Fred VanVleet against Orlando at 7.7, over 42 in his last 3 on the road, 28.3% usage in his last 3 on the road, and he put up 38.8 at home against Orlando their last time out. So he's had success against Orlando. He's going to continue to play lots and lots of minutes. He's playing really well. His price is fine, so VanVleet for sure. Ja Morant at 7.4. The guy's been playing really good lately. We were all mad because he wasn't getting the minutes, and now he's seen over 30 minutes in his last 5 games. Over 44 in his last 3 fantasy points. 44 fantasy points against Utah at home last game. This is the return again for Mike Conley. Let's don't talk it up again. I don't even have Mike Conley on here. I think he's just a role player now, more so. This would be a good spot, as we know, because Memphis is not that good against the point guard spot. But guess what? He didn't do shit last time out. Maybe he does this time. I don't know. I'm not playing Mike Conley. So Morant again, 27.5% usage over his last 5, over 30 minutes in his last 5. Like I said, put up 44 last time at home here against Mike Conley and the Jazz. So Ja Morant at 7.4, I'm totally fine with. Rolling down. Kind of going down to the lower tier in the 5K range. Colin Sexton at 5.3. He's put up 28, 26, and 36 in his last 3. 25.9% usage over his last 5 at home. And we knew Milwaukee was giving up a lot of points to the point guard spot there for a good week and a half, 2 weeks. So he gets a nice spot here at home, pace-up spot for Cleveland as well, playing against Milwaukee. And yeah, I think I'm a decently nice fan of Sexton at 5.3 on in tournaments for sure. If you want to go there, he's been playing decently well. Rondo at 4.9, Washington number 2 again against point guards, 20.2% usage over his last 5. Gave me a dud last game, pissed me off real good, but you know what? I'll probably go right back to him here as long as he stays this price and he's playing at least 25 minutes or so or more. I think it's still fine. TJ McConnell has been playing really, really well. Got a nice pace-up spot here, of course, against Atlanta. 4.5K. He's put up 25 or more in his last 3. He's played 23, 19, and 16 minutes. So his minutes are inconsistent, but he's still finding a way to put up over 25 fantasy points in 16 minutes. He's just playing really well, playing good basketball. And, of course, like I said, if he sees 20-plus minutes, he's easily probably going to get to that 20 to 25-minute or 20 to 25 fantasy point range that you're going to need at 4.5K. And that's good. That's what you want. So T.J. McConnell, I think he's fine. Rolling over to the I forgot to write down IT3 here at 4.2. It is the Lakers. It is Rondo. I don't know. He's cheap, and you would think that he probably tries to show out playing in Los Angeles against the Lakers. Couldn't get that one out. Anyway, so if you're into that, you can play him. I'm probably not. Brad Beal at 9.4. He's really high priced. Like I said, the spread is not in favor of him. 12-point, dog here. But he has put up 52 his last game against Phoenix, and he's put up over 52 in his last 2 on the road. He sees, hefty usage, over 30%. It's iffy. It's really tough. He probably likely draws, Danny Green, which is not the best defender I want to target as far as paying 9.4. So I'll leave that one up to you, but he's there. Jimmy Butler at 8.3 should be back in play tonight at home. 38 or more in his last 3 at home. Over 46 in 4 of his 6 at home. Jimmy's good. Hopefully he'll be back tonight. Devin Booker at 7.9, 45 in his last game versus Washington. Rubio is kind of banged up. So we kind of see more point Booker. 26% usage at home over his last 3. So Devin Booker, like I said, just fresh off a 45-point game against Washington. Not exactly the greatest matchup here with the Mavs, but this is a really nice, obviously a nice spot. He's getting them at home, and it's a nice high total. So Booker is fine. Donovan Mitchell, 7.8. Going back to Memphis, where he put up 53.3 his last time in Memphis. Memphis allowing the 10th most fantasy points to that shooting guard spot. Over 41 in his last 4 of 6, and he's had a 31.6% usage over his last 5. So Donovan Mitchell's been playing really well. It's a really good spot. They've been giving up a lot of points to the shooting guard spot. And, yeah, I think they will lean on him once again. So Donovan Mitchell at 7.8, totally fine with. DeMar DeRozan at 7.3, over 38 in his last 6, over 41 in his last 4 of 6, and 27.9% usage in his last 5. DDR's been playing really, really well, and he hasn't been getting a lot of ownership. Hopefully this will not be the game that he lets it down, but, I mean, I know it is the Clippers. He will likely draw like PG, defense, maybe Kawhi. I don't know. It isn't the greatest of spots, but he is at home. In this spot, like I said, it's a decently nice total at 225. And, the Clippers are only a 6-point favorite here in San Antonio, but I think the Spurs can keep this close. I think DDR plays all game. And at 7.3, I think I'm totally fine with this price. It's very contrarian, especially at home here. I like it in tournaments, so you can go that route if you'd like. Zach LaVine is just still priced too cheap. I actually put him on the cover of my pod Tuesday, I believe, and he had 30 fantasy points, and then, of course, that was sandwiched between a 59-point game and a 60.5-point game. Guess what day I picked to use him and feature him? Of course, the day that he puts up 30. Nonetheless, playing in Portland, we know they hemorrhage points to the shooting guard spot, 7th most over their last 5 to the shooting guard spot. He has had a 35.2% usage rate over his last 3. Put up 59 and 60.5, like I said, in 2 of his last 3, and then he was sandwiched with that 30.5-point game. I think LaVine is a staple play tonight against Portland. We know they struggle against the guard play, and who better at 7K right now, who's garnering tons of ownership after, come out with a chip on his shoulder after he got called out by Coach, Jim Boyan or Balon or whatever the fuck, Boylan. Let's go with that. Of course. So, yeah, got called out. Now he's just been balling out. Gets the greatest matchup you could have tonight almost against Portland, in Portland. Nice high total there. So, I say nice high. I don't know the total, but I think it will be up there. Nonetheless, 35% usage over his last 3. We're going to play LaVine at 7K. Devontae Graham at 6'9", 49 last game here at home against Detroit, the same team he's playing tonight. Just that they're playing in Detroit. Nonetheless, 36 or more in his last 3 or 4, right around a smidge under 25% usage, 24.7% over his last 3. So, Devontae Graham continues the ball out. He's really good. Jeremy Lamb at 6'3", got a nice pace-up spot here with Atlanta. 33 and 39.5 in his last 2, 23% usage over his last 3. Jeremy Lamb had a really nice game last game, put up 40 fantasy points almost. And again, gets a nice little spot here at home against the Hawks. So, like this game, like the spot for Lamb. Roll on. Fournier at 6.1, over 34 in his last 4, 28% usage in his last 5, and put up 34 in his last game against the same Toronto team. Fournier has been playing really well. Looks like they might get Aaron Gordon back tonight. He's questionable to play. So that one will be interesting to note if he does come back. But I still think Fournier is going to continue to get his. He continues to see nice usage. So don't really mind Fournier in that game, of course. If Aaron Gordon is out, it'll make me want to play him more right there, smidge over 6K. So I like that one quite a bit. J.J. Redick at 5.1, 35 minutes last game, put up 31 fantasy points, over 31 now in his last 3 or 4. We thought maybe with Lonzo coming back, he would get kind of sideswayed a little bit. And also, I just remembered that Lonzo has already been ruled out for this game. So, J.J. Redick at 5.1 will absolutely be in play. And then that also makes Drew Holiday a very, very, very much more interesting play. So, that's highly worth noting. I forgot he was ruled out already. Joe Ingles at 4.9 has now played 25 or more minutes in his last 6, put up 26 and 30 in his last 2. Gets a nice spot here against Memphis and a pace-up spot. So, if you're into that one, excuse me, I'm fine with that. Tim Hardaway Jr. at 4.6, over 27 in his last 3 or 4. Just put up a 49.5-point game against Houston in Houston. 22 or more minutes in his last 3 or 4. He's entered the starting lineup. He's been playing really well. And, of course, tonight gets to play against the Suns in Phoenix in a nice pace-up spot. So, THJ at 4.6, tournament play for sure. Rolling over to the small forward spot, Kawhi Leonard, nice and rested up, 9.3K tonight. San Antonio allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to the small forward spot over the last 5. 32.9% usage in his last 3 on the road. So, Kauai will probably be a nice target to be looking at tonight. Jonathan Isaac at 6.9. Toronto, fifth most fantasy points to that small forward spot over their last 5. Over 30 fantasy points in his last 4. Over 35 in his last 3 or 4. So Jonathan Isaac has been playing really well with the absence of both Aaron Gordon and Nikolai Vucevic. So if those two guys sit again tonight, I think you kind of got to roll with Isaac here. Bojan Bogdanovic at 6.4. The guy's been absolutely balling out. Over 36 in his last 4 or 5. 25.6% usage over his last 5. And he's put up over 40 fantasy points in his last 3 or 5. Gets, again, a nice spot here and a pace-up spot against Memphis. So, yeah, Bojan, I'm a fan. Draymond at 6.2 could get Butler D, but nonetheless, he put up 33 fantasy points in 24 minutes in his return last game. He looks to be good to go. Hopefully, he's going to see more than 24 minutes. So at 6.2K, I don't mind playing him even if he does draw Butler. Nonetheless, T.J. Warren at 5.4, Atlanta, allowing the most fantasy points to that small forward spot on the season and over the last 5 games. That's their worst spot. It's the weak link. T.J. Warren has now put up 29 and 30 or 29 more in his last 3 or 4, 27 plus in his last 4 or 5 at home. So T.J. Warren's been kind of a model of consistency here. 5.4K is a really nice price. Plays well over 30 minutes most games, so T.J. Warren I'm totally fine with. OG Anunoby at 4.9, 35 fantasy points last game, over 33 minutes in his last 2. He's back to playing his regular minutes since he had the eye issue. He's been playing lots and loads of minutes, so OG I'm fine with. Another play that I don't think will have hardly any ownership because he never does, but the guy's been actually playing really well. I think he's a nice cash play, and I don't think he's fine. I think he's fine for tournaments. Jay Crowder at 4.9, over 32 in his last 4 of 6. Gets the Utah revenge spot here. I know it's not like a big revenge spot, but he did play with them for a couple seasons. So I apologize for my dog drinking water in the background. Nonetheless, put up 32 last game here at home against Utah, and he's put up over 32 or more in his last 4 of 6. Jay Crowder's been playing really well. He's a staple on that Memphis team. He plays loads and loads of minutes. He's the first guy on the floor, last guy off the floor. So Jay Crowder, yeah, I'm totally fine with him at 4.9. Nicola Batum at 3.7, 31 minutes, 24 fantasy points in his last game against Detroit. He's a total tournament play, not anything that you can write home about. If you want to throw him in some tournaments, I think he's fine at 3.7. Another one that is kind of in the same boat as Batum is Cam Johnson. I know Dorian Finney-Smith is kind of hurting a little bit. He seems kind of banged up. He's probable to play, but nonetheless, if he's slow at all, Cam Johnson at 3.5, 32 minutes last game, 28.5 fantasy points versus Washington. If you want to look into that, he's there. He's cheap. He's dirt cheap, and if he's going to get 32 minutes, I'm definitely going to want a piece. So Cam Johnson there. Power forward Giannis at 12K, over 50 in every single game, over 80 in his last 2 of 4. So if you want to play Giannis, totally fine with it. But AD at 10K really piques the interest. Washington allowing the second most fantasy points to that power forward spot over their last 5 games. He's now put up over 60 in his last 3 of 5 and over 47, at least 47 or more in his last 5. So AD at 10K absolutely is a nice play. As well, of course, stacking with LeBron is even better. PG at 8.8, San Antonio allowing the 5th most fantasy points to that power forward spot over their last 5, over 37 or more in his last 4 or 5. So PG is obviously a nice play as well if you want to go there instead of Kawhi or both or whatever you want to do. They're both in good spots in a decently nice high total game there, 225 against the Spurs. Brandon Ingram at 8.3, over 42 in his last 7. A smidge over 38% usage over his last 5 at 30.8%. So, you guys know I love Brandon Ingram. Been on him all season. He's just balling out continually. So, exceeding value. So, totally fine with Ingram again here. Domantas Sabonis at 7.9, playing against Atlanta. Over 40 fantasy points in his last 4. He's put up a double-double in 12 of 15 games on the season. So, he continues to get it done. He continues to put up 40, plus point fantasy games, and he gets a really nice spot here against Atlanta. So Blake Griffin at 7.5, put up 38 last game against Charlotte. Charlotte is not very good against the power forward spot. His price only went up $400, so you're getting typically, probably a 35-point floor here with Griffin at 7.5. So totally fine with Blake Griffin. LaMarcus Aldridge, like I said, I believe he's also contrarian like DDR in this game at 7.1. He's really cheap. Over 33 fantasy points in his last 4 or 5 at home. So you get LaMarcus Aldridge at home in a nice contrarian spot and a nice little savings on the price. So if you want to go there, I'm totally fine with that. Tobias Harris at 6.4 could get a nice little bump tonight with no Josh Richardson or Al Horford. Over 33 in his last 3 on the road. So Tobias Harris is a good spot there as well. But on the flip side, I really like Julius Randle. Obviously, all he has to deal with now is Embiid, and Randle's been good lately. Only 6.4K, over 31 in his last 4 or 5, 25% usage in his last 5. So Julius Randle, I think, is a decently priced there, especially without them having 2 of their better defenders. So I'm totally fine with some Julius Randle. Carmelo Anthony at 6.2. Chicago versus power forwards is something we will continue to exploit. 29 or more minutes in his last 4, 26 fantasy points or more in his last 3 or 4. Carmelo's going to continue to see lots and lots of minutes for Portland. I mean, they're hurting, and I'm totally fine with playing Melo. I'm totally fine with him with his price if he's going to play 29-plus minutes. Larry Nance Jr. at 6K, over 32 or more in his last 4 or 5. Milwaukee versus Biggs, not most to the power forward spot over their last 5. So totally fine with Nance there if you want to go there. Dario Saric at 5.9, back-to-back 40-plus games, 40-plus fantasy point games, I should have said. He's played 33 and 37 minutes in his last 2. Gets a nice high total here against Dallas. Dario Saric has been playing really well, obviously, over his last 2. Eric Paschal at 5.8, over 28 fantasy points in his last 6, 38 or more. Or he put up 38 last game, gets a nice little spot against here. He's been playing well, still playing lots of minutes even with Draymond, so Eric Paschal I'm totally fine with. Kelly Olynyk at 5.8, 24 and 32 at 31 minutes in his last 3, 42 and 28 in his last 2. We know Golden State struggles against bigs, so Kelly Olynyk is in play if you want to go there. Let's see here. I had Davis Bertans wrote down at 5.1, 29 or more in his last 5-6. He scored 12 or more real points in his last 6 games. Continues to be a nice little spot off of the Washington bench. So if you want to go there, I'm totally fine with him. Another part of that Golden State team is Omari Spellman at 4.6. He just put up a 39.8 fantasy game last game. He's now played over 23 minutes in his last 5, put up over 20 fantasy points in 4 of those 5. So at 4.6, he's a nice little tournament look. Let's roll over to the center spot. Andre Drummond at 9.2 just put up 52 fantasy points against this same Charlotte team last game. Charlotte is still allowing the 8th most fantasy points to the center spot over the last 5. They've been starting Biyombo more with Zeller out, so obviously that didn't affect anything. Drummond still put up 52, so totally fine with Drummond. Joel Embiid obviously should get a bump with no Horford, no Jay Rich. Put up 59 last game in that bounce back spot. Should get a nice usage bump here. So Joel I'm totally fine with. Bam Adebayo is probably one of my favorite center plays versus Golden State here. Over 46 in his last 3 or 4. Golden State, not very good against that center spot. Bam should eat. So say goodbye to the Whiteside 6K range because he is now 8K. Chicago, we know, struggles mightily against that center spot as well. So Chicago allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to that center spot over their last 5. He's put up 33, 36, and 44 since his return. Hassan's been good. He should have a really nice game tonight. I don't know if you want to pay 8K for him, though. Tristan Thompson at 6'1". We know Milwaukee struggles against centers as well. Over 38 fantasy points in his last 2 of 3, put up 38 fantasy points in his last game. So Tristan Thompson is totally fine there in a nice pace-up spot against the Bucks at home. Last one, it wasn't a low price. I actually missed him, but it was Rudy at 8.2. Rudy Gobert had a nice return, 55.8 in this same game against Memphis last game. Played 30 minutes last game in his return after that ankle injury and missing a game. So, Memphis is allowing the number 1 fantasy points to the center spot over their last 5. Interesting, right? So Rudy is in play there at 8.2 if you want to do that. All right, that wraps it up for your 13-game Friday slate. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. Be safe. Until next time, we will talk later on, of course, in the chats. Lots to talk about still as far as, talking about this slate once we get going later on this afternoon, start seeing more news. So anyway, happy Friday. Hope everybody enjoys their weekend, and we'll talk later.